But let's start now. So we have a market structure shift at this zone. This zone, we got our market structure shift. So based on those four rules that we talked about the other time, what are we going to look for? Our inducement and then our point of interest. So we have this first pullback after we got the breakup structure as our what? Inducement. This is the first pullback after the what? The inducement. We have 2 points of interest we can work to. We have this first breakup block because it was an order block that what caused this breakup structure to the downside. It break this low. It break this low to the downside. That means a breaker is an order block that will just go violate it. Let me delete this so that we know that where this is coming. See, it break this structure to the what? Downside. So that means it's an order block. Now market violate it. That means it turns it to what? A breaker block. And then we have this order block right here. So that means we have 2 POIs. We can take our what? Our buy from. And this buy, we have to correlate it with higher time frame. Higher time frame is telling us this buy is what? Temporary, because it's a correction move to that impulsive move. It's a correction move to that impulsive move. So we know that this high is a what? This high, this buy that is coming currently is just a correction move to what? To that impulsive move. So we go know that this high, we have a market structure shift, we have a breakup structure, we have 2 POIs we want to take the buy from. But the thing is, we need to know where we expect this continuation to, because we're already bearish. So to do that, we need to go back to higher time frame, which is that order block, 1 day, because it's the 1 day we use for our bias. We need to, that's why I say we need to understand this is like a basic of directional bias. You need to understand it before we go into deep dive. Because if you go into deep dive, you're not going to use a 1 day for directional bias. We're going to use lower time frame, which is 4 hours, and then 2 hours, 1 hour for a directional bias. Sometimes 30 minutes for my directional bias. Yes. So then we go to higher time frame, that 1 day, to look for what? Zones that we expect markets to react from, so that we can set our TP at that zones. So if you can see clearly, this is what? Fail. Who is this talking? Please guys, mute your mic. Okay. So you see, this is the zone. First, we got tapped into this order block that market was currently give us a market structure shift from. So we have to go to higher time frame to know where market might react from for markets to continue selling down. So we have zones that we expect markets to react from. We have this OB because that was the last high. If we break past above this one, we go a market structure shift in the higher time frame too, because this is the last low that broke this structure to the downside. This is why we expect our market structure shift to happen in higher time frame. So it's an order block, and then we have this fail OB. So these are the 2 zones that we have to pay attention to in higher time frame. So for us to use our take profits, these are the zones that we expect to set our TP from, because these are the zones that we expect another impulsive move to come from. So we go to lower time frame. So now we mark the zone that we expect markets to come and tap into before continuation of that original trend, which is impulsive move in the downtrend. So when we have this zone, why is this zone? Yeah, okay, this zone. This is This is where we are currently. We got this market structure shift, and we have 2 points of interest we can take our buy from for this correction move. The first breaker block and then the order block. Based on those 4 guidelines that I gave you when picking a point of interest, we said what? The third one says choose the point of interest that is not mitigated. So we know that, you see, our inducement mitigate this OB. Our inducement mitigated this breaker block. So automatically this one is invalid. Automatically this one is invalid. And then market we want to use the unmitigated zone, which is this order block. So based on the rules we talked about, this is the zone that we expect markets to come and tap into before continuation of our buys. So When market tapped into this zone, this is where we expect our buys from this zone. And what is our take profit? Our take profit is that zone from higher time frame that we expect what? Reversals to come from, which is what? That breaker block that we marked up there. This is what? Our target, this breaker block. So now anything that will happen inside this until market reach that breaker block. Let me try just in the time frame. So until market reach this breaker block, let me change it color. Until market reach this breaker block, we will not be looking for what? Sales anywhere. Anything that we're going to do is what? Look for buys. Look for what? Breakup structure, our structure to form, and we will be buying till market tapped into this zone. And even if market tapped into this zone, we will not be looking for sales anyway until we have a what? Another market structure shift. Because when I talk about market structure shift, I said we expect market structure shift to come from a zones, from a key level. Anything that will happen inside this now is not going to consider a market structure shift. It's just market coming down to grab some liquidity for it to fail off. But these zones, this breaker block or this order block, these are the zones that we expect markets to tap into for what? For likely that impulsive move for what? Downtrend to come into. So we know that for this our pace buy, since we have a market structure shift, we know that okay, markets really want to what? Want to started giving this correction move at these zones. So that means our what? Our next zones for markets to what? React from is this breaker block or this order block. So we know that our take profit is going to be at that zones. And anything in between is just going to be a re-entry. That means we are bullish now. But our overall market is selling. But we know what is coming is what? This correction move. So we are bullish, but we know that market is what? Selling. But we're bullish. Why are we bullish? Because we want to trade the what? The reversal patterns. We want to trade the what? The correction move before continuation of this what? Impulsive move. Right? So this is what? Directional bias in higher time frame. We said the first thing we want to do is what? To know where the sell is coming from. So we know that when market tapped into this zone now, this OB, this breaker block, market tapped into this breaker block. So we know that definitely this is the kind of zones that we expect what? Higher time frame to continue selling down. And what is the target? Is this low. This low. So anything that happen now at this zone, we're going to look for what? A market structure shift and trade again to continue selling down. How are we going to do? Again, we go to lower time frame. So if you go to lower time frame, at that zone, that supply zone, then we look for what? Structure to form. What are we going to look for is what? A market structure shift. Then we read the structure to the what? Upside. So based on the what? Market structure, we have a high, right? That break this high, this low break this high. So we have this high, then we have a low. Then we have another high. Then we don't consider this a low because what? It did not break structure to the upside. It did not break this high. So where do you expect a what? A market structure shift to happen in high time frame? Is what? This low. This is the valid low for what? A market structure shift to happen in high time frame. Right? So when we have this breakup structure to the downside, so we know that we have a shift in what? In 4 hours. That means now the impulsive move is about to come. So we know that we have a shift. Now we have what? 2 things to do. The first one is what? To look for what? POIs, which is what? Point of interest. I marked this one because this one is the valid, because for you to know higher time frame market structure shift, you have to stick with what? Higher time frame market structure shift. You can use lower time frame than that. You can load 5 minutes. From 5 minutes, you can see a market structure shift around these zones. And you can see your same setup formed again. Because if you can see from here, you have this breakup structure, you have this break, and then you have this as your inducement. This high as your inducement. Sorry. This high as your inducement. And then you have this OB, market is reacting from. So you can use that. The one thing the reason why I did not use that is because I want to talk about the directional bias in higher time frame now, before we talked about it in lower time frame. So that's why I'm talking about. So for you to, I use per hour because this low is the one that caused this breakup structure to the upside. So this is a swing low, a strong swing low. Because you might have lower time frame market structure shift, and market might react from this OB now to come back and take you out. And still you say, okay, directional bias is not wrong. It's very wrong because you're using lower time frame instead of higher time frame is telling you market is bullish and you stick to lower time frame. That's why I says we're going to talk about directional bias in lower time frame, higher time frame now before we go deep into that in lower time frame. So we said this is the zone that we expect what this correction move to come from, right? This is where we expect what a market structure shift to happen. Market take out this low. So know that currently market is shifting or structure. So all of these zones that we market did not use, these are the zones that we expect what this another what correction move to come from. All of these zones. When market come back, we know that we have a shift in higher time frame. Now we know that market is about to make the what the overall trend, which is what continuation of the bearish trend. And what is the target? This low. So you see, the first thing we want to do is what? Go to higher time frame to know what is the target. So for market to maintain this current structure, this is the target, right? This low is the target. So what are we going to look? We're going to look for sales all the way to this one. So any zones that we find our POI through, our target is going to be what? This low, because this is the higher time frame targets for markets to what? Maintain this current structure, right? So what are we going to do now? When market tapped into the supply zone, we have this market structure shift. Then we go to lower time frame and look for our what? Entries, because we know that already structure is shifted. Market is about to continue in the what? Original direction it wants to go. You see, we trade this correction move. So any zones that we see now, let me try leading to any structure we see inside this zone is just going to be a what? A re-entry. We're going to be looking for buys and buys. Yeah, we have this breakup structure. We have this multiple breakup structure. Market break this structure and then broke this structure again. It broke another structure again. And then give you what? Liquidity, which is what? Your inducement. So lower time frame is going to be a different things. Give you an inducement. There are point of interest you can use into unmitigated and what? Mitigated point of interest. So this zone, you see, anything we want to be looking for now is buys. We're looking for what? Buys and buys. Anything. Another breakup structure. I can break this structure and then break another structure right here. Give you liquidity. And then market reacts from this breaker block to continue buying. Another one again, react from this breaker block. If you go to lower time frame, you see clear structure for you to take this buy. Same thing when market come to this zone. Maybe you break, give you another inducement, and then react from this what? Order block to continue buying up all the way. You see, we have how many entries now? We have about 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the original one, this one, 5 entries. We take 5 trades. That can last like a month or weeks for market to tap into this supply zone. You see, for when we know the right correction map is coming, so all we're going to be looking is what? Buys until market tapped into a supply zone where we expect what? These sales to come from. Until market tapped into a supply zone where we expect what? These sales to come from. So we have a market structure shift in higher time frame. So know that, okay, definitely, because it's a 4-hour, it's a strong time frame. So definitely we have a what? A market structure shift. Now anything that we'll be looking for is what? Sales. Anything we'll be looking for is what? Sales. So if we don't have that, our structures, which is what? Liquidity, and then our breakup structure, we're not going to trade it. So after we got this breakup structure, market just come back to the supply zone because there was no liquidity. If there was liquidity, we have 2 point of interest. We have this breaker block, and then what? This OB now. The market was selling from, but there's no liquidity. That means taking a sell from there is a risky because there's no liquidity. You might be the liquidity. As I said, any POI you have to have liquidity protecting the zone. So if you consider this one as an internal breakup structure, this internal breakup structure, you consider it and then use this as your liquidity. Still, liquidity is supposed to come after breakup structure, and this is supposed to come after this major breakup structure. So you see this cell now, because it's coming from a supply
Sorry,
zone.
sorry, sorry. I don't know if I can ask question.
Okay, ask question.
The other day I sent you setup like this. You told me
Yeah.
that I can use that as inducement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cause the thing here is that you said the first pullback
After
after the
breakup
market
structure.
structure shift is an inducement, right?
Yes, it is. Or after breakup
But
structure.
I showed you the other day. You told me that it's not an inducement.
Where do you mark your inducement from?
I'll send. I will check and send it to you on on
Okay.
WhatsApp. Continue. Thank you, sir.
Okay. This is where we get a breakup structure. And breakup structure is what? Is the market structure shift in what? The 4 hour. This is it. So this is where we expect what our inducement to come from. Any buy market do something like this, market bought into and then continue pushing down. So this is what we call what consider as a valid inducement this high, because it comes after our market structure shift in the 4 hour. So after that, there's no any liquidity right here. There's no liquidity. If you use internet structure, it's not liquidity, because this is why we got a market structure shift. So all of these days, some of you guys that will use this one and say, okay, I have this low got taken out and market give me this liquidity. I said this one is not valid. Market can just come to this supply zone because it was the extreme supply zone. Market is very expensive at those zones. So this is where sellers might come in and started taking the market what down. Market structure shift come after breakup structure or market structure shift. So this is why we get a market structure shift. So that means we don't have liquidity protecting this zone. So taking a sell from this zone is risky, because we know how the three-way why market moves. Market moves to hunt liquidity. Market moves to what? To correct imbalances, and then market move forward to go to what intended direction. So this is how directional buyer, you can use directional bias. I can say there's only few traders that took a sell, that trade SMC, that took a sell on BTC when it started dropping down. There are only few traders. If you go check every trader, any trader that trade SMC, there's only few of them that took these trades, these sales on BTC, these coming sales, until you take it at these zones, because these zones has liquidity, which is what this liquidity. So unless you take your sell directly from this breakup block and then target the low. But if you say you want to wait for what another lower time frame confirmations, you want to miss this trade on BTC. There's a lot of people that trade SMC. I can say almost all of the people that knows what they're doing, they do not take these sales on BTC because there's no clear structure. You have the market structure shift, but you have no strong point of interest to take the sale from. So I'm trying to explain this as a what? As a teaching class, because if you can go to lower time frame, 5 minutes, 3 minutes, you can still see structure and trade, because I even took a sale there. But in higher time frame, 4 hour, there's no more structures. So this is what I'm trying to explain. I said directional bias is what? Knowing where the sell is coming from and know the destination of that sell. So we know that for markets, we've been buying BTC for how many weeks? About 3 or 4 weeks. For just for markets to tap into zones, these two zones that we expect another impulsive move to come from. Right? So market tapped into and gave us market structure shift and started selling from there. Now market take out this low. So anytime market take out this low, what do we expect? A correction move to come from. Then we look for zones that we expect correction move to come from. So if you go to the previous price action, you see there are zones that we expect market what to react from. There is this OB, there's this breaker block, and then there's this OB. All of those three zones, these are zones that you expect markets to what? To react from, for you to take what? A continuation of that your what? Of that your correction move. Because impulsive move has already ended. Impulsive move has already ended because what? Market did the job. is what? Take out this high, this low. It already did. So the next thing is what? You expecting what? A correction move. So that means for you to look for correction move, you need to understand where sell is the buy will be coming from, because you don't consider a market structure shift until it's coming from a supply zone or what? A demand zone. So you see, market tapped after it takes out this low, market tapped into this OB right here. And you see there's an OB here, a price OB the market has never used. So this is the zone the market tapped into. So when market tapped into the zone, right, what are we going to look for? We're going to go to lower time frame to look for what? Again, structure at that zone. If we have a what? The Basel structure, which is what? A market structure shift. If we have a market structure shift, this is where we expect what? Markets to buy from. And then we expect what? The sell continuations to happen at what? At this broken supply zone. This OB market, this is a OB, the market what just used. This is a OB that market what did not use. It just displayed through it. So you know that it's a strong breaker block, right? So we can say that because we know that market is currently bearish. So these are the zones that we set our eye on. This is the zone if we are to take what? This reversal, this little correction move for these zones. So this is the zone that we expect this is should be our what? Take profits. I think I've taken this trade now. Currently, if you check on my story here on TikTok, you'll see this. I take the buy on this BTC. So as we said, the next thing you're going to do is got lower time frame. At that zone that market tapped into, you look for what? Structure at the zones. To look for what? Your structure at the zone. Your market structure shift, your liquidity, and then your fund of interest. Your market structure shift. Let me delete this because we finished this one. A market structure shift, a liquidity, then your what? Then your point of interest. We have another what? Break of structure to the upside. This break, and then another liquidity. And your point of interest, which is what? This OB. So you have two zones. You have two zones that market reacted from, market that what did not use. And all of them have liquidity and what? All of them have liquidity, and then they have 2 point of interest. This is why I gave you an assignment. So for those of you that sent me the assignment, I explained the reasons and I corrected them. For those of you that did not, I did not talk about them. So I'm not going to talk about it in this class. So you see, market react from this zone and started buying from the zone. So anything we'll be looking for, because we have a market structure shift, is going to be a buy. We're going to be a buy until market was tapped into this zone. This is the zone that we set our eye from, which is what where we expect what? A reaction to come from. So this is the buy that I took. This buy. This is a what? 2 hour. When I go to 2 hour time frame, I say what? We'll be looking for buys at this zone all the way to this zone. So when market tapped into the zone, you see we have a reaction. But this reaction, that does not mean, I know that there are supply zones. For me to take a sell from there, this is a liquidity that market might use to sell from this OB, right? And I have another OB right here. Just like it happens when it was buying, you see, because it has also liquidity, this liquidity that come after this break of structure. You can go to lower time frame, you can see the structure very much clear. So this is like same thing that happened in this buy. 2 point of interest, and all of them has liquidity. And market used the first one, the nearest one. So this is where I took the buy from. I see market reacting from these zones. So I know that for markets to continue selling, it need to go and grab this liquidity, and tap into any of these supply zone for this continuation of sales to come from. So I know the market react from this order block, this OB. So the next
Sorry,
thing
can
hello,
you explain again? I don't get what you said there.
you said?
I don't understand. You explained something that
Okay.
because actually I was expecting a buy. This is what I was telling you
Okay.
that time.
I said
I was
when we have
expecting
a
a
market
buy.
structure, okay, I said when we have a market structure shift at this zone the market reacted from, when we have a market structure shift, we will be looking for buys all the way to this supply zone that we expect what continuation of the sales to come from. We mark this supply zone in higher time frame, these two supply zones in higher time frame, where we expect what market to tap into before we continue selling. This one and then this one. These are the two supply zones that we expect market to come and tap before continuation of this sale. So I said, because we have a market structure shift at this zone now, we'll be looking for buys all the way to this zone. For market to tap into this zone or this zone for us to continue selling down. Do you understand?
Yes.
So I said the next thing it was we'll be looking for buys until market tapped into this zone and not just tapped, give us a market structure shift. Why do we expect market structure shift to happen? When market take out this low. This is the major low. Can you see? Because it was the one that caused this breakup structure to the upside and then tapped into this our zone. So until market take out this low, we don't have a market structure shift in higher time frame. That means we can still look for buys all the way to what? To the next supply zone, which is what? This supply zone. Do you understand?
Yes. Yes.
So this is why we expect what a market structure shift to happen in what higher time frame. So until market take out this low, we can still look for buys at this OB now to push markets to take out all of this liquidity and tapped into any of these demand supply zone before we continue selling down. We said our job as a traders is what? To react to these zones. If we see market reacting from the zone and give us structures that we trade, because there are two things a price can give us. A price can start at what? Invalidate this zone now and continue selling down to continue in the what? Original direction. Or price can what? Respect the zone, respect this OB now, and what? Push up all the way to this supply zone before we continue what? Selling down. These are the two things scenario can happen. But our job as a trader is what? To react to all of these zones. So if we take out this low now, we know that we definitely have a market structure shift in 4 hour in high time frame. So that means we go a market structure shift. All our what? We'll be looking for what? Sales and sales and sales. And what is the target? Is this new low that market creates? This new. This is the new low that market what creates. So our target is going to be this new low. Anything that we'll be looking for, sell is going to be this new low. If we understand the market structure, we know that market will buy and sell, buy and sell, buy and sell. But the overall target for high time frame is this new low for markets to maintain this current very structure. So I said the next thing we're going to do is what? We'll be looking for buy until market taps into this zone and give us clear structure for us to sell. So if you're a beginner trader, you say, okay, the market just tapped into the supply zone and you go, what, a market structure shift. We did not get a market structure shift because this is where we expect a market structure shift to happen at this low. So this is the reason why I took this buy, because this is the low that I would expect market structure shift to happen and it did not. Now market is approaching the low. If it takes this low out, so I know that I have a market structure shift in the higher time frame. So I'll be looking for sales. So I see market tapped into this breaker block that has liquidity also. It has this liquidity. So I know that this is a very good balance place to buy from. I can buy to take out all of these highs because I don't have a market structure shift. So that's why I stepped down to lower time frame and took this off from there. I took two buys. The first one, I used the 5 minute entry. I used 5 minute entry at that zone. I see market give me what? This break of structure to the upside. This break of structure. Market give me this break of structure and then give me liquidity. This liquidity. And then I got my POI in the 30-minute time frame. You see, this is the break of structure. This is the liquidity. And then this is the what? Point of interest close to the liquidity, which is this OB. So my target was this
Why
one. You said?
why didn't you look for like the POI on the same time frame you look for your inducement?
That's a very clear, good question. I said I took 2 buys there. I took the first buy in what, 5 minutes? In the 5 minutes, this is my inducement. In the 5 minutes. After that break of structure, this is why I mark my inducements. This is my inducement. And I bought from this breaker block. You can check my story currently. I have this buy currently. I bought from this breaker block. The reason why I bought from this breaker block in the 5 minute time frame. Let me delete this. I bought from this breaker block. This is why market tapped me in. This is my buy from the breaker block. It's just my SL. I covered the low of this breaker block, this low, because I know what market might take out the loss, because this is not a clear breaker block because it did not break structure to the what downside. So I know market might pull all the way in to what grab this liquidity. Market might pull all the way in to use the OB, because if you go to lower time frame, 1 minute, this 3 candle you see there is an OB there. If you go to 3 minutes, let me show you. You see there's an order block there. This is an order block in 3 minutes. This is an order block. So I know market might push all the way to this OB because my breakup structure, because my breakup block is not valid. It did not break structure to the downside. So this is how I took my buys, and my target is this high. Is this high, this liquidity. You can check my story currently. So this is how I took this buy currently now. So this is how you can use directional buyers to take your entries and then know how to set your TP and SL. Do you guys understand?
Yes, we understand.
So
But
this,
I have a question. I
you
have a
have a
question.
question?
Can you check Euro USD?
Now,
Yes, I'm just
come to
wanting
my
to
DM,
ask.
ask me a question on my DM. I'll share my screen to explain it to you. But now your time has ended already. It's 1 hour and
Okay, because the thing here is that
yeah, come to my DM. Just come to